People can still filter in slowly. And yeah, thanks, Will, for mentioning. I think we do have to rename the testing call. Okay, so the first thing thank you, and we should be live. The first topic I wanted to bring up was Pectra Retrospectives. We have our blog post live that I've shared in the chat here. 1 second. Yeah, we have a blog post live that I've shared in the chat here, and the blog post talks about the approach used for figuring out what the blob count was for Pectra. So the proposal was 6.9, and we've had the blob count live for about a month now, or a couple of weeks at least. And Sam and Andrew from the team have done an analysis based on data from homestakers to figure out how that number actually played out on mainnet. TLDR of the post, the estimation was actually quite good. I think 6.9 sort of hit the perfect mark of what the network is able to handle potentially today, which is good news for PRDAS estimation topics. Yeah, we'd suggest people to have a look at that. If there's any discussion, then please bring it up in the ACDT issue next week, or we can discuss that on ETH R&D if people want more data or more information about any of the estimations. The next topic I had was the gas limit. So we've had gas limit at 60 million on both Sepolia as well as Hoodie for about a week, 2 weeks now. There was an initial post made by Sam looking into the data, and in general, it looked good. Um, has any other client team spent some time on the topic? Anything you guys have observed? Anything we should observe over the next week or two? Okay. Then I guess over the next couple of days, we should slowly start signaling a gas limit increase officially as well. But we can do that async. And it would be great if client teams can spend some time over the next days looking through the metrics and making sure we're not missing anything.
GM everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so the next topic I have on the list is Fusaka DevNet Zero.
Parag,
Yeah.
before we go to that, can we first signal to 48 million, then to 60? Instead of jumping straight to 60 on mainnet, I mean.
Yeah, do client teams have an opinion on the steps? What would you guys prefer? Yeah, Camille, and then Ben maybe.
Yeah. In my opinion, we already see like 16 or 17% of validators already signaling 60 million. So I guess they won't go for sure lower. We do not have probably anything problematic for now to go for 260, both from our tests and from the research done by Sam. Seems like 60 is like a reasonable option. Would be for sure nice to see smaller steps, but I don't think it is necessarily needed for 60. So like 60 we can go directly. We should consider smaller steps moving forward. Not like very smaller steps, but for sure not going for 30, 40, maybe going by every 20, 15, 20. But 60 seems like a no-brainer, at least for now.
The only reason I bring up this point is because we are almost doubling the gas limit now, which is like a very, very big change.
Yeah, Ben, do you want to go?
Yeah, I was just going to say something similar to how Camille ended, that 60 million seems post Pectra with the cold edge change. Seems okay. Above 60, we should, think about a more cautious. If you want to go to like 120, I don't think we should double again. We should take it in more cautious steps beyond that.
Yeah, I think the argument that was presented that also made sense to me was that gas limit changes tends to have a decent chunk of coordination effort. And if we haven't noticed any big problems until 60 million, then we can basically go to 60 million and then spend that extra coordination budget for smaller jumps post 60 million. So we could even do 10 million instead of expecting a larger jump beyond that number. Seems to be so far that client teams are okay with that approach. Are there any objections to that approach? Yeah, and bringing up a point Tony posted in chat, CL, if it's true that the CL max limit size is 2.5 MB, which is something we should spend some time figuring out as well, then we can hit 10 MB only at 65 million. So 60 should actually be safe. Okay, then I think this week we can spend some time on getting some statistics for the max CL size, and it seems like that shouldn't be a blocker for the next jump, at least. If anything, it would be the blocker for jumps after that. Okay, any other updates on the 60 million topic, at least for now? We will again talk about gas limit towards the end, but just to close up the 60 million topic, do we have anything else for now? Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item, there's one PRDAS announcement, which is we've had a PRDAS testing channel up until now. We've decided to sunset that, as well as sunsetting PRDAS DevNet 7. All PRDAS testing moving forward will happen on the Fusaka testing stream. So we have Fusaka DevNet 0. And that also implies that all the chats will be moving to the interop chat. So please move your conversation there and keep them in threads as much as possible so that there's an easier overview for the channel. And I'll hand it over to Barnabas for Fusaka DevNet 0 updates over the last week. Do you want to go?
Sure. So Fusaka DevNet 0 started out with electrogenesis, and we forked flew in epoch 256, where we kept the maximum blob count at 9. Then 256 epochs later, in epoch 512, we have increased the max blob count to 12 with the first BPO. Then in the second BPO, 256 epochs later, we increased it to 15, then to 18. Then we went back down to 9. And now in a few minutes, we're going to go up to 20. So far, all the BPOs worked.
And did all the BPOs lead to all clients successfully upgrading and downgrading, or was there any fires, any bugs found?
We didn't see any forks. We saw some other peering issues in different clients, but none of them seem to be related to BPO itself.
Awesome. And I think before Fusaka went live, you also sent the newer version blob types to the network, right? Was that test also conducted as expected, or was there anything found there?
Yeah, there was no issues.
Awesome. Very promising then. Thank you. Anything else for Fusaka DevNet 0? What else is planned for the network? Is it just the last BPO and then some sync testing, or are you going to be doing malicious column withholding? What's the plan?
I think the best would be to do sync testing and see if clients are able to backfill now with checkpoint sync.
Awesome. And we also have the ProBlab tool that yeah, I'm not sure if it was presented on this call yet, but we have a tool built by the ProLab team that would request certain columns that the node is advertising, at least based on the CSE, to make sure that the advertised columns are actually being delivered on the network. So it should be integrated, I guess, over the next few days into the testing stack, and then we'll, I guess, reach out to you if your node is live.
Yep, 100%. This is ready. I'm actually going to share the link in the GitHub repository link in the chat, and happy to receive feedback and, of course, reach out. Oh, yeah, someone shared it already. Yeah, Barnabas, thanks.
Yeah, we already building UI for it.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, let us know in case of problems or whatever else.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Moving on to the next topic, could we get an update on where client teams are with Validator custody?
I can start for Prism. So yes, we implemented Validator custody, but we did not yet implement the backfill. That means that if you start with a given validator count and you increase it, we won't backfill the already passed blocks after having increased the validator count.
And is this something that you guys plan on implementing, or what is the...
It is under yes, implementation is in progress right now.
Is this causing issues in implementation? Is this something that we need to have?
Let me check if Casey is on the call now. Yeah, as far as I know, there is no issue with implementation right now with backfill. And
Yeah, I think one of the issues with implementation, the worry was that it's been taking so long. Could we maybe hear from other clients as well as to what the status is and like what the ETA is? Is this a feature we're expecting to have feature complete by the next DevNet cycle, or will this take another month or 2 months to implement?
I think for Lighthouse, we're expecting to have it done by end of this week, like at least before the interop event. So yeah, like it is a little tricky to implement mainly because of the backfill, like Manu mentioned, and also like dynamically when the validator when the custody count changes based on the number of validators, you need to backfill accordingly before advertising the updated before updating the advertised CGC. So it's a little bit tricky implementation wise, but I think we should be able to get it done before the interop event.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we first finish client updates and then I can allow Francis to speak if that's okay. Are there any other client teams here? Is Agnish or someone else here? Yeah.
Yeah. So from Nimbus, we have validator custody, we have the access column backfilling, but I think there was a recent PR. Yeah, I think did Francesco and yeah. So okay, this is merged. So I don't think I don't I don't yeah I don't think we do need validator custody backfilling. Because you can check this new PR. I think it says that only update the new CGC after the DA retention period, something like that. But we do have the mechanism there. There are few issues. I think I raised this at least 2 weeks ago, That is, with validator custody, we have a dynamic DA, and the DA can uh, let's say if you're using key manager based setups, uh, the DA can change, or like the validator custody can change at any given time slot. And let's say it can even change um, like let's say at slot start and in the first 2 seconds. So um, it can be a situation where your custody count is 20, and right at like 800 milliseconds into the slot, it can become like 54. And you have like around 200 milliseconds or 250 milliseconds to maybe get the excess columns uh, into your DA from gossip or something like maybe. So there are different ways you can tackle, but I think the best approach would be to have a very a constant DA condition. Either I do samples per slot or I do number of columns if I'm a super node, because if validator custody moves all over the place, I'm not very sure about the network stability. Yeah.
Isn't the idea that the CSC, etc., only changes on the epoch transition? So even if your validator custody changes, you will have a certain amount of time before you have to make that change, right? It's not that you would have only a couple hundred milliseconds to react.
Uh, I'm not sure if that is clearly mentioned in the spec. I think it's more of a CL implementation detail. Although I may not be sure, but
Yeah, Francesco, do you want to go? Maybe you have some insight on that.
Yeah, so I mean, one thing is, I guess everyone probably should take a look at this PR. I think we discussed it in a thread, so maybe this might also be why Agnish might be the only one that has seen it already. But yeah, basically the PR I think should simplify the situation quite a bit, and I guess it was Justin already merged it because it essentially doesn't require backfill when your custody increases. It just says that you can essentially you're free to just wait until the custody period is passed and you actually have already kind of organically done the not backfilling, but like you've kept up with the chain. So you already have all of the things that you would need at that point to increase your advertised custody. So I think that kind of simplifies like both of the questions that were posed, like both on the backfilling size and on the side of basically it's not quite as dynamic because it doesn't really jump all over the place. Like even if it increases by first by 1 and then by 3 and then by 5, it doesn't really matter. You're still gonna wait until the 2 weeks or 18 days or whatever has passed before actually making any changes. That's on the increasing side, but yeah, the decreasing side is generally easier. Like at least on the backfilling part, you just don't throw away anything, and there's nothing to backfill because you already have more than you actually need. So to me, it seems like this actually takes care of both of the concerns, like both on the backfilling side and on the side of things being a bit like too jumping all over the place. But yeah, for the second one, if this is not enough for some reason, so the spec doesn't say things like you mentioned, Pari, around only changing at epoch transitions or something like that. I personally would prefer not to make the spec too rigid around these things, but I think maybe we could have some note that essentially just says that it's a bit up to implementers. Again, if needed, on top of already this PR that was merged. Because yeah, in principle, it's definitely not, it shouldn't be the case that, I mean, even in the old spec, it wasn't meant to be the case that if the custody increased, 0.5 seconds before you were about to attest, now you have to throw away your attestation and make sure that you scramble to subscribe to new subnets or think something like that. Like it was definitely always meant to be that there is some flexibility to implementers to kind of handle this kind of changes in custody in a way that makes sense for them. But yeah, I don't know. I think first of all, I guess people should take a look at this, and then if something is needed on top, we can discuss that.
Awesome, thank you. Manu, do you want to go, or should we have Justin first present the PR, and then if there are questions, discuss it after that?
Yeah, as you wish. Yes, I have some concerns, some remark about this validator custody pull request. But yes, maybe Justin
then
can.
we do Justin first, so that we are all on the same page about what this PR aims to achieve, and then we can do questions.
Okay.
Hi, yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize you guys weren't aware this was merged. I mean, Agnieszka brought up some concerns with me privately, and I made a PR to what I thought would resolve those concerns. I mean, it kind of just adjusts when and like when we drop custodied sidecars or like the columns, and also when we start backfilling. Like Agnieszka brought up that like when custody changes, if it changes more frequently, it might be an issue to like constantly delete and re-backfill. So we sort of came up with like a less, I don't know how to say it, like something that wouldn't require backfilling like every other epoch or something. I mean, to me, it makes sense. You're required to custody columns, which at pretty much any point in time, you're required to continue keeping columns, which you are required to custody at any point in time. And then like after the blob, the retention period is over for that blob, you can drop the column. And I mean, yeah, pretty much. But oh, Manu, what questions do you have or concerns?
Yeah. Actually, I know some big node operators have two sets of nodes. For example, they have, let's say, one beacon node A and one beacon node B. The beacon node A is connected to some validator clients, and so we'll have a high CGC, and beacon node B is a standby and is not connected to any validator client and have the minimum CGC. When they want to to upgrade, let's say, a validator client or a beacon node, so in order to minimize the IPY loss, they will first upgrade the beacon node B, and then they will connect the validator client to the beacon node B. And so beacon node A will immediately, or more or less immediately, decrease the CGC, and beacon node B won't increase its CGC before 18 days. And if they change, connecting from A to B more often than 18 days, if I'm not wrong with this pull request, both beacon nodes will have the minimum CGC. And yeah, so both beacon nodes won't be able to serve more than 4 data columns, which kind of defeats the purpose of validator custody. And if we require the beacon node to backfill, I think there is no more this kind of issue.
I mean, I don't say. I mean, you could choose to backfill if you want to. I mean, I guess the spec does say should not backfill, but I mean, we can change that.
Yeah, the spec says should not. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I can change that to may, or we can change that to may if necessary.
But even if it is a main node, and if every client does not implement backfill, it may be an issue for node operators that switch from beacon node A to beacon node B quite often, because none of them will advertise high CGC.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we can change that. I see some suggestions and the comments for like may and may not. Like I think both kind of mean the same thing. But also I feel that this is somewhat of an implementation detail, and like I'm not sure if it should really be super specific in the specs.
I don't know, because my question is, if no client team implement it, yes, let's imagine no client team implements the backfill, and every big node operators do this beacon node A to beacon node B switch. In this case, we will lose a lot of super nodes. I mean, a lot of nodes which should behave like a supernode will actually behave like full node.
I mean, how often does that happen then? A switch from beacon node A to beacon node
I
B?
mean, as soon as there is a new client version, as soon as
Wouldn't these like big staking operations just run as this supernode anyway?
sorry.
I'm sorry for background noise. Wouldn't these like big staking operators run it like a supernode anyway? Like, would this even be an issue for them?
It's not an issue for them, but it's maybe an issue for the network if there is not enough supernode. My concern is with this pull request, with this change in the spec, I think we will have less supernodes than expected.
Yeah, Pawan, do you want to go, or Agnish?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
sorry, I was just wondering, like, Anu, like for Prism, like like and what endpoint do you use in Prism to figure out how many validators are attached to a beacon node? Is it like the subscription endpoints? Is it the attestation publish endpoints? How do you figure out how many validators are attached to a node? Do you take it as input from the user itself? How does that work for you guys?
It is the endpoint prepare beacon proposer for the beacon API.
Beacon proposal. Like we were considering using the subscriptions endpoint because it usually in multi-BN setups, the subscriptions, at least for Lighthouse, they are sent for like all the connected beacon nodes from the validator client. So in that case, like usually most of the time, since the subscriptions are sent to everybody, like all the BNs in the multi-node setup sort of become like have the same number of validator nodes consistently across them. So that is what we were thinking for Lighthouse.
Okay, let me check, but I'm not sure it will. It will change. It will, do anything better regarding the beacon A to beacon B switch from some node operator. It will probably behave the same way.
Yeah, Agnish, do you want to go?
Yeah, so my concern is like maybe a request to the research team, that is, can there be potential attacks if there is like if somehow a BN is not really enforcing the validator custody count to be very accurate? Like I understand that validator custody is sort of more like a heuristic. Can there be any kind of network partitioning attacks or any kind of like potential instability cases that can happen, like say for these multi-BN setups or something similar where the validator custody count is basically a virtue of the fact that these validators are pretty much being listened over by multiple beacon nodes, or like not very inaccurate, like not very accurate calculations of validator custody count. Can we like can there be any kind of attacks or like any kind of problems? Because yeah, I mean we came at it as a heuristic, but I don't know if the number is enforceable or not. In this is it's strict or not strict. So I just have a question around that because I understand Pawan's point, and we have been talking about this internally in our team for quite a while now. But it's like whenever this discussion comes, we just at the very end the conclusion is, oh, it's just a heuristic. It's maybe not a very enforceable number. So that's basically the question. Can there be any risks if it's not enforceable and if it's just a heuristic?
Would someone from the research team be able to take that up? Maybe Francesco or Raul
Yeah, I
or
mean, I guess I don't entirely understand what you mean by like not very accurate. Like somehow, yeah, I don't quite understand, yeah, what not very accurate means, but in terms of the risks, like the the main point of validator custody is really just to ensure that there's kind of a baseline of super nodes in the network. Like that's probably like, I don't know, well, I don't know what a percentage, but like it's like a lot of its value, just that. So yeah, as long as that's kind of insured, but like with quotes, it doesn't need to be insured in the sense that it's impossible for it not to be the case, but just, if enough node operators are not modifying their code, and I mean, you could also include something like, oh, maybe if not all of the node operators are running like very strange setups or something like that, then hopefully that's the case. And then another part of it would be that in principle, it, you can get like just stronger assurances about basically the percentage of the stake that can be made to vote for something unavailable, being available, like to incorrectly vote. So for that, you kind of would actually want to maximize the amount of nodes that are voting with respect to their actual custody, as opposed to something much lower. But yeah, but it's not super crucial. So yeah, I don't know then what that practically means. I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't know what exactly do you have in mind in terms of
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think a better question would be is let's say the counting of validator custody is strictly based on the fact that the validator is to BN relation needs to be one to one or maybe one to many. Like let's say in multi-BN setups, where like let's say um, in multi-BN setups, these BNs are detecting, okay, we have the validator here. Okay, one more epoch later, we don't have it. What I'm trying to say is it strict one to one, or like in cases for key manager based setups, or in a case where even Pawan tried to explain, I think um, at a very granular point of time, it's probably one to one. But since we are counting the custody over a like decent period of time, it's seemingly one to many. Um, I hope I could explain, but that's basically the concern. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in principle, there's ways to mitigate this. Like we could just say, I don't know, for example, you use the max of the validators that you ever detected in the last however long, in the last 18 days, or I don't know, some period, or like since the last time you started it, or I don't know, whatever we want, I guess, or some kind of time weighted average. I don't know, probably the max is the thing that would make most sense. So that, like, yeah, if you run a multi beacon node setup with like 1,000 validators that sometimes are connected to one, sometimes to another, then all of those beacon nodes will be super nodes all the time. I don't know, that could be a solution.
Maybe we do Manu and then Raul.
No, sorry, it was from my previous intervention.
Okay, yeah. Then Raul.
Yeah, mine was also resolved in the chat. Sorry.
Perfect. Good. Then I guess we still have the open. This is still an open topic, right? Or are we changing the should to may or may not? And is that something that everyone's okay with?
I would
I
like. Hope you go. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say I do think we need, so there's a bunch of edge cases here that I think warrant more like deeper analysis to like think through how things would react. So I think we should take it offline and come up with something. Francesco, I'm happy to pair on this, and Justin.
Yep, that sounds prudent to me. For now, it seems like we have some understanding, at least to have may. That could be the PR, and then we can have a discussion on that PR, and then decide what we do with the topic. Yeah, and regarding Barnabas's point, could we do May and hope to have validator custody by next week, if that's okay?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. Then Barnabas, once there's a PR, could you add it to the Fusaka DevNet 1 spec, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we also need to figure out what edge cases happen with the validator custody changing, right? And I would assume we would discuss that on the PR. So yeah, more coming next week, I guess. Continuing with Fusaka DevNet 1 topics then. We have EIP 7917 that was SFI'd on last week's ACDC. This is the deterministic proposer look ahead. Do CL client teams want to chime in on this one? Are there any open topics? Is this an understood EIP that just needs implementation time? And do note that this introduces beacon state changes. So this is also a warning to all the tooling side because that will all break.
Is 7917 a target for the next DevNet?
Yes.
That was the idea, unless there's severe pushback on either timeline or the EIP on this call.
From what I remember Mark telling me, like he had already implemented it in Lighthouse, but I'm not completely sure if it was like a full implementation or like more of a POC or like, so I'll check with him. But I think we should be able to uh, get it done. Like we can talk about it offline if there are any issues.
Okay. Other CLs, do you guys have an opinion on 7917? Working implementations or in progress? Do we have the spec ready for this and already merged in?
No, there's an open PR for the spec. I would appreciate if CL teams did review and approve or disapprove. I don't know, we're planning on merging it very soon.
Photo said he's gonna take a look at that today, and then maybe we can merge it in tomorrow, and then we can start aiming for that next week, Monday.
POTUS has already left his review.
Okay.
Prism has in progress implementation for this EIP.
Also in progress for Lodestar.
Awesome. That sounds good then. So I guess the two major changes for Fusaka DevNet, one will be, at least on the CL side, the validator custody change, pending a PR that we discussed today, as well as 7917, right? Are there any other big changes I'm missing in the DevNet? Okay. Are there any big changes for the CL, sorry, EL? Not sure.
There's the transaction gas limit cap and the blob base fee bounded by execution cost.
Exactly. Do we have some EL devs here who can talk about how their implementations are going? Do you need something? Are there open PRs that need to be pushed through? Yeah, thank you, Gabriel. Bezu's on track. Could we hear from Nethermind, Geth, Reth, Aragon, perhaps? Okay, Nethermind's on track. Cool. I guess Rex is also on track, and we can follow up with Aragon and Geth async. Great. Looks like we're still on track for Fusaka DevNet 1 next week then. That sounds good. Awesome. Aragon's also on track. Perfect. The next topic would be, yeah, Rahul, do you want to give us an update on the BPO networking changes that was to be discussed?
Yes. Yeah, so the final shape that this has taken is basically having a updated compute fork digest function that takes into account the blob schedule and masks the current maximum blobs per block, and then adding one key to the ENR to signal the next intended fork digest that the node is going to take. There's currently an EIP that most people that have chimed in seem to agree with. We made a few tweaks here and there, and now there's going to be a consensus spec patch coming in later today.
And do we want this included for DevNet 1?
Yeah.
I guess.
How does that look from the implementation side of things? Is this relatively quick for client teams to do, or should we table this for DevNet 1 and do it in DevNet 2 instead?
So I guess it depends on the kinds of tests that we intend to conduct as well in DevNet 1. If so far there have been no, I guess, network partitions or network splits observed so far, I don't think it's necessary. It's urgent to implement it right now. So if there are other things to implement for DevNet 1, I think this can wait for DevNet 2.
Yeah, I'd also tend to agree right now. Also, as of now, peer-to-peer changes are still a bit of a pain to debug, so it would be nice if we're not doing that along with a bunch of other changes in a 1 week time span.
I would also support pushing it to DevNet 2 so that we have more time to review the PRs.
Awesome. Thank you. And Justin, would it be possible to have whatever PRs we've discussed merged in this week and potentially a release or a tag or something that client teams could use for testing?
Yep, I've already mentioned that somewhere in the comments. I'll share it again. Planning to do a release on Tuesday, pretty much after the deterministic proposer look-ahead PR is approved and merged.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, the next topic we have, sorry, is there anything else to the BPO networking change that people want to chime in with? Everyone's okay with it? What's the feeling? Okay, I'll take that as acceptance. The next topic we have is metrics implementation. So we have a couple here. Katya, do you maybe want to talk about them?
If someone currently implements get blobs v2, I added the metric for it. So probably you can add it to the client's implementations. That would be great to see. I'm currently building it for Lodestar. And also, it's not clear what will be with the custody. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I actually have metrics for it, but if there will be any changes, so maybe the specs will change as well.
Okay.
That's it from my side.
Thank you. Should we add the metrics change to DevNet 1? Feels like a relatively minor change for client teams to implement over the next week.
Yeah, it's still in this PR 14, so probably we need to merge it and to open new PRs for any further changes, so it will be easier to follow.
Okay, perfect. Barnabas, can you take lead on making sure the metrics PR get merged then?
Sure.
Thank you. And yeah, I think someone from the Sunnyside Lab team wanted to talk about the same metric, but for the EL side.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jay. Yeah, so we had raised metrics for EL side. And then previously, Marius has suggested changes in the naming, and we've asked EL teams, but they did not yet respond to it. So if they can have a look and if they are okay, we can go ahead and make changes. We've already implemented the original versions to Wrath and Nethermind, and also Ethereum JS, and Geth is on OpenPR, so we can probably change it quickly.
Okay, thank you very much. Then, yeah, let's add the EL metrics change as well to DevNet 1. That way we can get some progress on the metric side, and then we can still refine it and change it for the future.
Sure, thank you.
Katya?
Yeah, Barry, regarding to EL metrics, may we have a repo for them as well? That would be great to share open PRs and discuss them.
Yeah. Is this just going to be execution metrics similar to consensus metrics, or?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Yeah, we can sort that out and get back to you on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And to address Justin's point, the ask on the EL side is to align on get blobs v2 metrics for all ELs, so that we can actually visualize what's going on the hit rate of the requests or whatever.
Okay, I think Katya's ask probably solves what I need. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get a place where we can track this. There will be PRs, there'll be a metric spec, and then we can move from there. Okay, I think that should be most of that. We have a Sunnyside Lab team testing update from the 30th of May. Do you guys want to give a brief intro on what's going on?
Sure. May I share the screen if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. Let me figure out. Yeah, you should be able to share your screen now.
Yep. Let me just quickly share the link in case you guys don't have it.
I got that. You can start.
Sure. So yeah, we've done some. We've run 7 devnets over the last 10 days prior to this release, and we were focusing mainly on the impact of get blobs enablement on different combinations of CLs, and we also run a devnet, the same spec as devnet 7, but without Lodestar and Nimbus, whether it becomes more stable and reaches higher block counts. To briefly go through the performance, without Nimbus and Lodestar, we actually got lower block counts, but block time was more stable. So we don't know what happened, why, but it was what it was. But yeah, we were more focused on the bottlenecks, so that we can try to find out like how we can improve and reach higher overall block counts. So we looked into like each client in particular, and for Lighthouse, we got higher 53 block counts per block when get blob is enabled, and 45 without it. So it was like about 15% higher. And it was similar for Prism as well. So 40 while 37 without. And then for Grandine, we somehow couldn't test it further than more than 10 blobs. And Grandine team confirmed that we were using older image which had some bug. So we will try new Grandine image later with Fusaka.net 0 spec. So moving into analysis, this is the part where it becomes more interesting. That we got some ironic results. So first of all, this one is not ironic, but we found out that Grandine was requesting more than once when it fails, while other CLs request get blobs just once, regardless of like whether it fails or not. And we could see that on Grandine, when it requests multiple times, it was able to get blobs occasionally. So if other CLs also want to implement this optimization, then it might be worth checking it. For the data column processing, on Lighthouse, when getBlobs was enabled, the number of column sidecars that was submitted for processing decreased. When the block counts increased, it was quite interesting to see why, but maybe there was an optimization or maybe there was a bug on metrics. We don't really know why, but this was something new that we found. And second thing that we found regarding the data column processing was that on Lighthouse gas combinations, when we disabled getBlobs, we didn't get any data column failures. But when we enabled getBlobs, we got so many column failures. So we cautiously assume that Guess was handing wrong columns to Lighthouse for some reason. So this week we're gonna test this with RAS as well, so that we can check whether this is from EL or not. And we also got similar results with Prism as well. So with Prism, when getBlobs is enabled with gas, we got more processing failures. This was interesting.
Wait, question. Are you sending V1 transactions or V2 transactions?
V2.
Yeah. Because like it could be that if you're sending V1, then we might not return the correct thing. But like that's I had this error and everyone complained that there's this error thrown, so I just like silently ignored it now. But that was one of the things that came up is like there was still being a bunch of transactions sent with blobs v1, and so we didn't return the blobs on blobs. But I can look into it.
Okay, that would be appreciated. And Pawan, please.
Yeah, I think the failures could also just be like duplicates. Like, do you know like what specific failure it was on Lighthouse? Because if you are getting columns over gossip and also getting them over getBlobs, it might just be getting registered as a duplicate column, and that is also like an error. We don't like do anything with the error, but it is still registered as an error. Could be that probably.
Okay, yeah, that might be one of the reasons, because how we measure this is just total request minus number of successes. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we need to count it separately. Moving on to the next point that we found interesting was the column processing time was inversely proportional to the number of processings on average. So the first chart is the number of requests, and you can see that Grandine has the most and Teku has the least. But then when we measured the timings, Teku has taken the most and Grandine has taken the least. And
Jay, would it be possible to maybe summarize in the next minute? Because we have like one more topic we want to do, and then the rest of the discussion to async.
Sure. Yeah. High reconstruction time on Lighthouse was already discussed on the Discord, and then block pool size. I think we need to increase it on Geth. I think 42.6 megabytes is a bit too small because the blob size will be 9 megabytes for 72 blobs. So that was it. And for CPU RAM, yep.
Our blob pool is 1 gigabyte. Like
Is it?
the full pool. Yeah. It's just one sender can only send a few blobs. But
Okay.
the overall size of the blob pool is 1 gigabyte.
Okay, let me check with you offline. And the rest is, yeah, it was all right. Grandine gas. I think because of the block pool size, we'd had problem along with like not using the latest image. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the analyses. Could you maybe create some threads on the interop chat for whatever topic that you wanted to discuss, and then we can discuss with the respective client teams and sort them out one by one?
Yep, sure, will do.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I guess you guys should also migrate to the Fusaka DevNet 0 spec next for the next version of DevNet.
Yeah, we've just enabled it today. So we've been starting to test it.
Perfect. Okay, but at time, there's one more small topic I wanted to bring up after, but there's one announcement. Is everyone in general okay with canceling next week's call, because we will be in person with the interop event, and I think ACD also might be canceled next week. Okay, we'll still discuss that and post a message on all core devs as well. But yeah, I think if anyone needs to drop, then please feel free to drop. The only last topic I wanted to bring up was, do we have column sidecars in the Beacon API event stream already? And if not, are we planning on adding it? I'm not sure, is there some CL dev or someone owning the API who's here for the event stream?
I think we don't have it in backend API, but for Teku we have custom implementation, for example.
Okay, then I think we might need to add it to the event stream, because we just started looking at the Zatu metrics for it and we realized that the event was missing, which makes sense. Cool. So we'll make a PR and then we can take it from there. Okay, thank you everyone for coming then, and hope you have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yes.